G'day everyone, George here from True Dog Training. Just going to run through some pretty important stuff, namely how do we get our dog to stop lunging at other dogs. Now this is more primarily for dogs that are lunging because they're excitable and they want to greet the other dogs. Theoretically you could apply it to an aggressive dog too, but I'm more addressing excitable dogs that are friendly with other dogs, okay? So, I've got my whiteboard here and I'm going to sort of show us what we need. So, first are the prerequisites to this. There are some things that you'll want to have done before you embark on the process. So, what are they? Let me see if I can get this to show. Sorry, Indy. Okay, so prerequisites. First prerequisite is that you've taught your dog that when you say its name, it needs to look at you. Okay? So, command for eye contact. Now, you don't have to use the dog's name to garner eye contact. I like to, but you need a command. When you say it, the dog knows it should be looking at you. Okay, that's the first step to all of this. If you don't have the ability to gain eye contact from your dog with a command, then you can't go on with the rest of the process. Okay, now how do we condition that? That might be a video for another day. Okay, but let's just assume you already know how to do that and the dog has this set up. Okay, secondly, you've set up what's called a delta marker. Alright, now this is basically a warning command to the dog. It's a command of disapproval. It's your way of saying to the dog, that was wrong, whatever you did in that moment was wrong, and yeah, you've conditioned that properly so that the dog knows it's not just a hollow, empty command, that it could escalate from there if the dog doesn't stop that behavior or fix its behavior. Okay, so that we need a condition also. So this is basically a line of communication with the dog. So we've got a way of getting eye contact, we've got a way of telling the dog no, and we also need a marker word, or you can use a clicker, but some way of telling the dog that they were correct in that moment. I use yes. Okay, Jack? Okay, so I use yes. So I've got, hopefully before you embark on this, you've got your command for eye contact, you got your delta marker, and you got your marker word yes. Okay, now if you've got all those in place, we can begin. Okay, so let's put that to the side for now. What is the first step? So we've got our dog. Oh, well, there's a bit more than that actually. Let me go back. You also need the dog to know what heel means. Heel. The dog needs to know where it should be walking very clearly. Hopefully you've trained this thoroughly in a low distraction environment. When you've got all four of those things, then you can move on to the next step. Okay, the dog needs to know where it should walk. Okay, which is preferably, you know, it's up to you, but it should be potentially on the left hand side, slightly behind you, you know, at your left hand side there on your heel. Okay, once you've got all those set up and the dog knows what heel means too, then you can begin from there. So let's say you start here and you are progressing towards a dog that's coming towards you. Okay, as you progress towards the dog, sit. As you move towards the dog, the arousal level of this dog, okay, this dog here, let's say that's a dog, as it progresses towards another dog, its arousal level goes up and up and up and up. Now, there's a few things we need to do along this process, okay? So, as we're progressing towards the dog, the first sign of fixation will be the dog starts to look at the other dog. Maybe you're 20 meters away. It depends on the dog how fixated your dog is, okay? it'll depend on a lot of different factors. So you've got to make that assessment. Or my dogs are going nuts. Come. Come here. Get up. Indy. Get up. Indy. Oh my God. Sit down. Cut it out. Sit. Okay. So, scratch that. So, as your dog gets closer and closer to another dog, it is going to get more and more aroused and more fixated. So you need to break that, and you need to show the dog what you want in the meantime. So you're back here. Let's say, you know, your critical distance for your dog is 20 meters. You're back at 20 meters progressing to another dog. Okay, starting here, you will be using the dog's name first, or word to garner their attention. When they look back at you, immediately mark. Okay, we go back to marking. Okay, so it's a very simple process. Back here, dog's name. Two options. You got two options from there. Either they look at you, in which case you can mark and reward. Pippa, stop it. I've got about 4 dogs here with me. You can mark and then reward immediately. If not, okay, if they don't look at you, that means, you know, maybe they're quite entranced by other dogs. That means you need to issue a correction. Okay? And I mean, we'll get into that in a second. Okay? Then you progress a little bit closer, and the dog gets more and more fixated. At that point, you should probably give a delta marker. Like, hey, no, something like that, but it's been conditioned and the dog knows it could progress from there. Then you got two options from there, much like you did with a name. Either the dog looks at you, which is good, you mark and reward that. Or it doesn't look at you, and then you correct at a higher level. Okay? Then you continue to progress, and you can keep doing that. Okay? You keep giving a delta every time the dog starts to fixate at another dog, and you can either get eye contact from there or not, and mark and reward or correct. Now, at some point along this, you can teach the dog that, you know, it should just be paying attention. Okay? So you shouldn't have to remind it to pay attention after a while if you're confident in the dog. So what will happen is you'll get to a stage here where you're close to the other dog and the dog starts to fixate. I wouldn't even delta at that stage. I'd just correct. Okay? And by correct, let's talk about what I mean by corrections. Okay? Let's say you've got the dog on, well, you can have the dog on a flat collar. You can have the dog on a slip collar. You could have the dog on a martingale collar. You don't want the dog on a harness. You don't want the dog on a head halty. Stop it. Okay? But yeah, you could work it on any sort of collar like that. Martingale, flat collar, slip collar. It'll depend on how strong your dog is. You know, all the way up to like a prong collar, let's say. You know, if you've got a very, very strong dog like a, you know, an American Staffy that weighs 50 kilo, 40 kilos or something like that. Then, tough little strong dogs. Okay? So you'll need, yeah, the right equipment, of course. A lead that does not have any give. And what I mean by that is, you're able to, well, you know, it's self-explanatory. It doesn't have any give in it. Okay? When the dog fixates on another dog and you want to correct it, what I'm doing is I'm slowly, I might have to demonstrate this at a later point, but to describe it, I am basically doing a sharp 180 and popping the dog, not pulling the dog, but popping the dog at the same time. And I'm not warning the dog a lot of the time when I correct them. The reason is I want that dog paying attention to me. I don't want to have to pay attention to it. And the only way for that dog to know when that correction is coming, if I don't warn it with a verbal, is for it to watch me. So we're training the dog to watch us in order to avoid that aversive stimulus. Okay? So it's very simple. Let me describe that again. You start at the start. Right, dog is here, 20 meters away, let's say. Okay, that's just an example. Your dog could react from 30 meters away or 50, or maybe it only reacts from 10 meters away, but you just got to decide that. Your dog is here, 20 meters away, starts to look at another dog, use its name. If you get a response that you want, which is looking at you, yes, food reward or another reward. If it doesn't look at you, then we're going to correct, like I just described. Continue closer to the dog. Dog starts to fixate again. Warning marker. It either looks at you and then you mark and reward, or it doesn't look at you and then you correct. Continue closer. I don't warn them anymore at that stage. They look at the other dog when they're too close and I just correct. Okay? Because their arousal level is too high and I can't risk them starting the behavior of lunging. Okay? So that's the basic process for how we stop that behavior and how we teach a new behavior, which will be giving us focus and eye contact. Okay, when we pass other dogs, and teaching the dog basically that everything could possibly be a trap as well. Teaching the dog that if you're not paying attention to me and we're getting close to a distraction, the past dictates to you that if you're not paying attention, I could give you a correction without any warning. So you should be watching me in order to avoid that. It's up to the dog really, because I can't correct a dog that's watching me. I literally can't, because I'm doing a 180 and I'm correcting them. If they're with me, if they're watching me very closely, they avoid it. They come with me, so they can't hit the end of that lead. I'll do more of a practical video one day where I show you exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's the basic gist of it. I hope that's helped. Thanks.